everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a review on the Jaclyn Cosmetics skin tint and concealers. If you do want to see a review and a demo, then please keep watching. As a huge favor, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment anything down below. I greatly appreciate it. I read all the comments and I will do my best to reply back. I went to Morphe after work last night. I purchased a skin tint and I also picked up 2 of the concealers. They also included a free Morphe sponge with my purchase. I'm super excited to try out these products. I went in store and swatched the shade in Tan Deep. This was the closest to my skin tone, and the 2 different concealer shades that I picked up were Tan Golden and Tan Neutral. The skin tint retails for $34 and comes in 12 different shades. The items are available on Jaclyn's website, Morphe, and Ulta.com. I do want to read a little bit about the skin tint. Get that comfy real skin perfection with Jaclyn Hill's Skin Perfecting Blurring Tint, doing double duty as a blurring primer and tinted moisturizer. The sheer coverage wonder delivers a natural finish that blurs texture and enhances the look of your skin for that just woke up glow. Here's a closer look on what the packaging looks like. It says Jaclyn Cosmetics. At the bottom of the packaging it says Skin Perfecting Blurring Tint. You get 30 milliliters or 1 fluid ounce. At the top you have the shade name. I purchased mine in the shade Tan Deep. There's nothing printed on the sides of the packaging. On the back of the packaging you have a little description, the ingredients, and it states that this product was made in Korea. On the bottom of the packaging it states it has a 12-month shelf life. Let's open this up. Here's what the bottle looks like. It says Jaclyn on it. This is a plastic bottle. I thought it would be glass. And then on the back of the packaging you have the shade name. Again, I picked up mine in Tan Deep. And it does come with a pump. It's an airless pump, which means every time you pump out the product, it'll keep going up and up and up, and then that way you'll be able to use up the entire product. Let's see what the shade in Tan Deep looks like. Tan Deep is described as a tan deep with neutral undertones. I think this would match. Now that I'm applying it to my skin, it seems that it's a little bit too deep. I'm glad it's a sheer product because it is kind of just blending in. You know what? It actually matches. I take that back. This shade actually matches. That blended into my skin very quickly. I just finished cleansing my skin. I don't have any moisturizer on or primer. I'm going to take whatever's left from the back of my hand and just apply it to this side. Of course, I will be testing out this skin tint and the concealers for an entire week like I always do whenever it's a new product. Tomorrow we'll apply the skin tint with a brush, and then the next day we'll try it out with a dampened beauty blender, and then we'll see how product looks like on top of the skin tint. But so far it is a sheer product. It's not canceling out any of my redness or my hyperpigmentation. You can still see it peeking through. I'm going to apply 1 more pump on the back of my hand. Well, let's do 2 more pumps. I'm going to be working that to the back of my hand, and then I'll apply it to my skin. I'll do one side of my face so you guys can see the difference. Apply a little bit to my forehead. And I'll drag some down my neck. Here's what the skin tint looks like on one side. And then of course on this side I don't have any product. It also made my skin look very dewy on this side. I don't like looking dewy or oily. As you all know, I have very oily skin. We'll see how it performs throughout my entire day. I'm just gonna feel the product. It's still a little bit wet. It's not tacky. Like, it's not sticky, it's just wet. I can feel the skin tint. Anyways, here's what it looks like side by side. I'm going to be doing the same thing for the other side. Again, I'm going to take 2 more pumps. So that's 1 and that's 2. I'm going to work it on the back of my hand, and then I'm going to apply it to my skin. I'm curious to see how the product performs using a beauty sponge or even a makeup brush. I definitely think with a makeup brush, I'll get more coverage. We'll definitely have to try that out tomorrow. Here's what the skin tint looks like blended out all over. My first impressions of the skin tint is that I don't like how dewy I'm looking. I'm very shiny, which I don't like. I'm already super oily as it is, so I think I might be looking like a grease ball by the end of the night. Now let's move on to the concealers. The concealers are called the Faux Filter Perfecting Concealer. Each retails for $26, and again, it's available on Jaclyn's website, Ulta Beauty, and Morphe. It comes in 35 different shades. I do want to read a little bit about these concealers. A lightweight, buildable concealer, so fresh you'll look well rested. Jaclyn Cosmetics Full Filler Perfecting Concealer offers medium to full coverage and a matte finish while visibly brightening and blurring for a finish that's fresh and flawless, like you got a good night's sleep. Here's a closer look on what the packaging looks like. It says Jaclyn Cosmetics. Down at the bottom it says Perfecting Concealer, and you get 6.7 milliliters or 0.23 ounces. On this side of the packaging you have a little description. On the other side there's nothing, and then on the back of the packaging you have the ingredients, the barcode, and it states it was made in the USA. On the bottom of the concealer it states it has a 6-month shelf life, and this is in the shade Tan Golden. Here's what the packaging looks like. It says Jaclyn on it. Tan Golden is described as tan with warm golden undertones. I also picked up the shade in Tan Neutral. Tan Neutral is described as tan with neutral undertones. I feel like the skin tint dried down darker. I'm going to apply a fresh pump. Yeah, it did dry down a little bit darker. I definitely should go back and pick up the shade in Tan. This shade is going to be way too dark. I'm going to apply 3 little dots like I normally do with my concealer. Again, this shade is called Tan Neutral. I'm just going to be using my fingers and I'll blend it out. Here's what the shade in Tan Neutral looks like blended out underneath my eye. I'm going to apply a little bit more where my hyperpigmentation is. Again, I'll be using my fingertip and I'll just blend it out. Again, here's what the shade in Tan Neutral looks like. On this side of my skin, I'm going to apply 3 dots of the shade in Tan Golden. I just wiped off my fingertips. Again, I'm going to be using my fingers to blend it out. Here's what the shade in Tan Golden looks like. Again, I'm going to apply a little bit more to my hyperpigmentation and then blending it out. Here's what the concealer shade in Tan Golden looks like. I honestly don't like this shade. I prefer the Tan Neutral. Here's the closer look on what both of those shades look like. Again, I'm going to do a fresh swatch of the shade in Tan Golden. You can see it did dry down a little bit darker. And then here's Tan Neutral. Again, it dried down a little bit darker. Here's what both of those shades look like side by side, freshly swatched and then dried down. This shade is giving me a little bit of a peachier undertone, but I do like the dry down of the Tan Golden. I'm going to apply a little bit of my Rare Beauty Volumizing Mascara. For lips, I'm going to apply my Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm in the shade Vanilla Beige. Here's one last look on what everything looks like. I won't be adding powder to my skin or applying any additional product. I want to see how the skin tint performs with the concealers. I will check back in with you guys at the end of the night to see how everything wears, and I will see you guys then. Hey guys, it is the end of the night of me testing out the Jaclyn Cosmetics skin tint and concealers. Here's what we're currently looking like. I don't like how this skin tint is sitting on my skin. I don't like how my makeup looks at the end of the night. The skin tint did settle into my neck wrinkles. I just don't like how dewy and glowy my skin looks. I look very oily. I did not blot throughout my entire day. My first impressions of the skin tint is that I don't like it. It oxidized. It didn't blur my pores. I'm looking at my skin up close in the mirror and I don't feel like it did any of that. I'm not liking this at all. As for the concealers, I don't like the shade in Tan Golden. It makes me look like I'm sick or unwell. The shade in Tan Neutral matches me best. It did blend in with my skin tone, which I really did like. The only thing is that I don't think this product is medium coverage. It's very light coverage. It didn't cover up my hyperpigmentation. Both of the concealer shades crease underneath my eyes. I'm gonna look up so you can see. And there's no coverage underneath there either. I will be going back to Morphe and picking up the shade in Tan. I think I'm going to keep the shade in Tan Deep. Even though it doesn't match me, I'll probably still use it. I will check back in with you guys tomorrow and I will see you guys then. Hey guys, it is day 2 of me testing out the Jaclyn Cosmetics skin tint. I went back to Morphe and I picked up a different shade. The shade that I purchased was a shade in Tan. I also picked up another concealer. This shade is called Tan Deep Peach. I want to show you all what the shade in Tan looks like. Again, same packaging. Here's what the shade in Tan looks like. I'll also pump out the shade in Tan Deep. Here's what they look like side by side. Remember I mentioned to you guys that the shade in Tan was a little bit light for me when I swatched it in store, but it does oxidize. We found that out with the shade in Tan Deep. Today I'm going to apply the shade in Tan using my fingertips. I'm not going to be using a brush today because I want to see how the shade in Tan performs. I'm going to do a fresh pump. I pumped out 2 pumps of the shade in Tan. Just going to be using my fingers. And again, I have nothing on my skin. I don't have any moisturizer or sunscreen or anything. I just finished cleansing it. As you can see, the shade in Tan is very light on me, but hopefully it does oxidize. We'll definitely see if it does. I'll be wearing this shade throughout my entire day. Tan was the only option. There was no other shade in between. Are these shades really universal? I'm not too sure. I'm gonna finish blending this out on this side. Again, I'm taking a little bit more from the back of my arm. I'll take a little bit to my forehead. Here's what the shade in Tan looks like, blended out using my fingertips. Again, the shade in Tan is light for me, but I'm hoping for it to oxidize. I'm gonna do one more pump. Again, I'm just gonna work it and then apply it to my skin. You can see it already oxidized a bit. I'm hoping for it to oxidize a little bit more. Here's what the shade in Tan looks like using my fingertips. I don't like how the skin tint isn't blending in. It's sitting on top of my skin. I noticed that yesterday. I really don't like this formula. Again, it makes me look very glowy, very dewy. I don't like that look at all. After first application, it looks like I've been wearing this skin tint for the entire day. Again, I want to see how the shade in Tan wears throughout my day. We'll see if it oxidizes. It's still trying to oxidize on the back of my hand. In the meantime, I want to show you what the shade in Tan Deep Peach looks like. This is the 3rd concealer shade I purchased. I swatched this in store and I was like, oh, maybe this might work for me. Here's what Tan Deep Peach looks like. Okay, maybe not. It's probably too dark. Again, I'm going to apply 3 dots underneath my eyes. I'm going to blend it out using my fingertip. This shade might be a little bit too dark on me. I swatched it in store and it was fine. Well, maybe it oxidized. We'll see how it wears. I'm going to apply a little bit more where my hyperpigmentation is. Again, this concealer, it's not full coverage. If it was full coverage, it would cover up my hyperpigmentation. It would conceal my under eyes, but it's not doing that. I thought this shade in Tan Deep Peach would work out for me, but it's looking a little bit orange. I'll leave it on and we'll see how it wears throughout my day. For mascara, I'm going to apply the Essence Lash Princess Volumizing Mascara. For lips, I'm going to apply the Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm in the shade Brown Sugar. Here's what everything looks like. The concealer shade in Tan Deep Peach did dry down, so I'll do a fresh swatch. Here's what the shade in Tan Deep Peach looks like, freshly swatched and then dried down. As you can see, it does oxidize. Again, I'm going to do a fresh pump of the shade in Tan. I'll do a fresh pump of the shade in Tan Deep. The shade in Tan did dry down a little bit darker. Same thing with the shade in Tan Deep, it did dry down darker. I'll check back in with you guys at the end of the night to see how everything wears, and I will see you guys then. Hey guys, it is the end of the night of me testing out the Jaclyn Cosmetics Skin Tint in the shade Tan and the concealer shade in Tan Deep Peach. Here's what we're currently looking like. I don't like how the skin tint is sitting on top of my skin. Same thing with the concealer, it's just sitting on top. Even though I did blend it out using my fingertips, I don't like how shiny my skin looks. Again, I haven't blotted throughout my entire day. I do want to do a tissue test to see how much product comes off. Here's how much product came off on the tissue. I don't like how the tissue removes some of the skin tint. You can see a little bit of my skin peeking through, and the skin tint looks very patchy. I much prefer this side. I'd rather leave my skin looking oily throughout my day versus blotting it. Well, I did use a tissue. I should have used a blotting tissue. I'll definitely blot using a blotting tissue later on this week. I wanted the shade in Tan to oxidize a little bit more, but it didn't. This is what we're looking like. Tomorrow, I'm going to be applying the skin tint using a foundation brush. I'm super excited to see what that looks like. As for the concealer shade in Tan Deep Peach, I don't like how orange my under eyes are looking. Again, the concealer didn't give me much coverage and it did crease underneath my eyes. I will check back in with you guys tomorrow and I will see you guys then. Hey guys, it is day 3 of me testing out the Jaclyn skin tint and concealers. For today, I'm going to be applying both shades. So we're going to apply Tan Deep on this side and the shade in Tan on this side. On the left side, I'm going to be applying the shade in Tan using my dampened beauty blender. On the right side, I'm going to be applying the shade in Tan Deep using a brush. I already cleansed my skin and I moisturized, and I also added primer. I used the One Size Secure the Blur primer. My pores are looking a little bit smaller and my skin is mattified. I want to see how the skin tint performs with a primer since we haven't tested that out yet. Again, I'm going to be taking 1 pump of the shade in Tan Deep, and then I'm going to do 1 pump of the shade in Tan. I forgot to apply these swatches on my skin for you, so I'll do that. Again, we have the shade in Tan, and right next to it we have the shade in Tan Deep. Here's what those two look like side by side. Again, I'm going to be blending it out using my fingertips so you can see what it looks like. Here's what both of those shades look like blended out. Taking a clean makeup wipe, I'm going to remove these swatches. I'm going to take a little bit more of the primer on the back of my hand and apply it to my skin. That way we're all nice and matte. Now I'm going to apply the shade in Tan Deep on this side. I'm just going to pump it out on the back of my arm. Then I'll dot it all over. We already know that this shade oxidizes, but I want to see how it plays with a primer underneath it. We are going to be setting it with powder. Taking my foundation brush, I'm going to blend this in. I love how the skin tint looks with the primer underneath it. I'm going to be taking a little bit more of the shade in Tan Deep on the back of my hand. I took 2 more pumps. This time I'm going to be taking my foundation brush, taking it directly from the back of my hand, and then apply it. Here's what 2 layers look like. I don't recommend layering the skin tint. It is starting to break apart up on my forehead. On the left side of my face, we're going to be applying the shade in Tan. Again, I'm going to be pumping it out on the back of my hand. So I pumped out 2 pumps, dotting it directly on the skin. Taking my dampened beauty blender and blending this. Here's what the shade in Tan looks like blended out using a dampened beauty blender. I'm not sure why the skin tint didn't blend out over here. It's just a huge bald patch. Tried to blend it out using my dampened beauty blender, but for some reason it's not blending out. I'm not sure why the skin tint doesn't want to stick to it. I guess I'm gonna have to leave it like this. I don't want to add additional product. It's just not gonna layer well. I tried to zoom you guys in all the way so you can see how on my forehead there's so much patchiness, and my skin type is very oily. So I'm never super dry. Skin tint is making me dry. It's definitely not the primer. I've used this primer several times with all of my other foundations. I'm gonna set everything with my Too Faced Peach Perfect setting powder. On the brush side, I'm gonna be using a large fluffy brush to set everything. Here's what the Tan Deep shade looks like set. I love how that looks, but I know it will oxidize. On the tan side, I'm gonna go back in using my dampened beauty blender. We're gonna set everything using the dampened beauty blender. As you can see, I have a huge patch here. Here's what the tan side looks like set with a dampened beauty sponge. Again, the skin tint is breaking apart severely. I don't like how it's looking. When we first tried out the skin tint, it did not sit well on my skin either. It started to break apart. With setting powder, it looks even worse. I'm gonna leave it as is and we'll see what it looks like towards the end of the night. For mascara, I'm gonna apply the Maybelline Curl Bounce Mascara. For lips, I'm going to apply the L'Oreal Lip Balm in the shade Celestial Blossom. Here's what everything looks like. Again, we have the tan shade. And then we have Tan Deep. Again, we have the Skin Tint shade in Tan, and then we have Tan Deep. As you can see, it did dry down a little bit darker. Same thing with the shade in Tan. I'm gonna apply a fresh pump so you can see what it looks like. So again, this is the shade in Tan, and then there's the gradient. Again, it does dry down darker. Then I'm gonna swatch the shade in Tan Deep. Again, here's a fresh pump. Here's what Tan Deep looks like. I will check back in with you guys at the end of the night, and I will see you guys then. Hey guys, it is the end of the night of me testing out the Jaclyn Cosmetics Skin Tint in the shade Tan Deep and in the shade Tan. I set everything with powder. Here's what we're currently looking like. I did wear a face mask today. It did leave some indentation here and on this side as well. I don't like what it looks like on its own and when it's set with powder. Tomorrow I'm going to be trying out the skin tint again, but this time we're going to mix both shades together. With this skin tint, you're not supposed to layer it. It's going to create this patchiness. I don't like the way my makeup looks. It's just sitting on the skin, and for some reason I'm getting all these weird dry patches, especially on my forehead. I'll check back in with you guys tomorrow, and I will see you guys then. Hey guys, it is day 4 of me testing out the Jaclyn Cosmetics skin tint and concealers. I'm going to be mixing the shades in Tan and Tan Deep. I already moisturized my skin with the Belief True Cream Moisturizing Balm, and I already applied sunscreen. This is from Live Tinted. For primer, I'm going to apply the Too Faced Hangover Primer. I want to see how the skin tint performs using a hydrating primer. Now that my skin is nicely prepped, we can apply the skin tint. I'm going to take 1 pump of the shade in Tan and 1 pump of the shade in Tan Deep. Here's what that looks like on the back of my hand, and I'm going to mix it. Apply it to my skin. I'll do it to one side and then we'll see what the other side looks like. Taking a clean foundation brush, I'm going to blend this. It's doing the same thing it was doing yesterday. My skin is looking very dry and patchy. I'm going to apply 1 more pump of the shade in Tan Deep and then 1 more pump of the shade in Tan. Mix both of those shades and then dot it on this side. Again, taking my foundation brush and blending this. I didn't like how the skin tint looked like using a dampened beauty sponge. I like it better with a brush. It's still looking a little bit dry. I don't think it plays well with products underneath it, nor does it play well on its own. You can see it looks very dry on my forehead. I'm gonna zoom you in. This has never happened to me before. I've never had a foundation or a skin tint or any product break apart. After wearing this skin tint for a couple of days, I don't like this at all. For $34, it's not worth the price. It only comes in 12 shades. Tan Deep is way too dark on me and the shade in Tan is too light on me. Even when it oxidizes, both of these shades don't match. I can't even save the skin tint currently. I'm gonna set everything with my Too Faced Peach Perfect Setting Powder. Looks very dry and flaky. Here's what the skin tint looks like set. Again, as you can see, my skin looks very flaky and extremely patchy. I don't like the skin tint at all. Applying a second layer of the skin tint will make my skin look even worse. There will be a bunch of patchiness. For mascara, I'm going to apply the Milani Highly Rated Mascara. I'm going to set everything with the Milani Make It Last Setting Spray. This is the Flora edition. For lips, I'm going to apply the shade in Almond from Tower 28. Here's what everything looks like. My makeup has looked so bad these past couple of days. I just want to wipe off the skin tint and apply something else, or not apply any makeup at all. I will check back in with you guys at the end of the night, and I will see you guys then. Hey guys, it is the end of the night of me testing out the Jaclyn Cosmetics skin tint. I mixed both shades. Here's what we're currently looking like. Mixing both of these shades, I was able to create my perfect match, but I just don't like the formula. My makeup looks very splotchy. I don't like how the skin tint doesn't work with my sunscreen. It doesn't work with my moisturizer, nor the hydrating primer. The skin tint doesn't even work on its own. I do want to do a blotting test. I told you guys earlier this week that I was going to be blotting one side of my face to see how much product comes off. I just have a clean blotting sheet and will blot this side of my skin. After I blotted my forehead, some of the skin tint did come off. Here's what my forehead looks like. I'm gonna finish blotting. I have a clean blotting tissue. this is how I normally blot. I just take a regular blotting paper or tissue, whatever it is. The skin tint is coming off on the blotting tissue on the other side as well. Like that's not supposed to happen. Here's what this side of my face looks like after I blotted it a little bit. You can see some of the skin tint did come off. Here's this side, which is my oilier side. I did not blot throughout my entire day. My final thoughts on the skin tint is that I don't like it. I would not recommend it. If you try to build up the skin tint, it disturbs the product underneath it. It doesn't mix well with other products. It doesn't mix well on its own. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't play well with powders. This is just a no, hard pass. I want to try out the concealers once more, but this time using my favorite foundation. This is my Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation. These concealers are not full coverage. I'm not sure why they mentioned that on the website. It's definitely a light to medium coverage, leaning more light than medium. I will check back in with you guys tomorrow and I will see you then. Hey guys, it is day 5. Today I'm going to be testing out the Jaclyn concealers using my Holy Grail foundation. This is a Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation in the shade Toffee Pecan. I already cleansed my skin, I moisturized, I primed, and I used sunscreen. I'm going to apply the foundation using my foundation brush. I'm going to blend this. With this foundation, I can use one layer and then I'll be good to go. I just have to add a little bit of concealer where my hyperpigmentation is. This foundation lasts me throughout my entire day. It wears nicely as well. There's no flashback. I would highly recommend. This foundation is buildable. I just applied some to my neck. Here's what the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation looks like. I'm going to be using the shade in Tan Neutral. Again, this is how I would normally apply my makeup. And then again, taking my foundation brush, blending it in. Here's what the shade in Tan Neutral looks like blended out. It's not giving me medium coverage, more like light coverage with a little bit of brightness. Again, this shade is going to oxidize. I'm going to apply a little bit more where my hyperpigmentation is. Let that sit for a little bit and then we'll blend it out. Again, I'm going to blend out this side. And again, here's what that looks like blended out. I'm going to apply a little bit more where my hyperpigmentation is because I want that to have maximum coverage. While that's drying, I'll use a little bit of brow product. I'll be using the e.l.f. Wow Brow. This is in the shade Neutral Brown. You can immediately see the difference between this brow and this brow after applying a little bit of brow product. I'm going to go in on this side. Now we can go back and blend out the concealer. I have a little bit more coverage. The concealer looks good. I'm going to set everything with my Too Faced Peach Perfect Setting Powder. Using a damp beauty blender, I'm just going to go under my eyes, make sure we don't have any creases. Going in with the powder, setting underneath the eyes. I'm actually going to set all over. Not too bad. I like how the concealer's set. For bronzer, I'm going to apply the shade in Yummy Toffee from Jaclyn Cosmetics. For blush, I'm going to go into the Rouge Romance palette and apply the shade in Pretty Posh. I'm going to set everything with the Milani Make It Last setting spray. This is the Flora edition. For mascara, I'm going to apply the Rare Beauty Volumizing Mascara. For lips, I'm going to apply the lip liner shade in Hot Tea. Again, this is from Jaclyn Cosmetics. I'm going to line my lips and I'll fill it in. Here's what everything looks like. I love how the concealer shade in Tan Neutral looks like paired with my favorite Holy Grail foundation. We'll see how the concealer wears throughout the day and I will check back in with you guys at the end of the night to see what we look like, and I will see you guys then. Hey guys, it is the end of the night of me testing out the Jaclyn Cosmetics concealer in the shade Tan Neutral. Here's what the concealer looks like. I I don't like how the concealer looks at the end of the night. It did emphasize my under eye wrinkles. I'm gonna look up so you can see. You can see how the formula emphasized my under eye wrinkles. I do like this shade in Tan Neutral. It did brighten up underneath my eyes. I'm just not a huge fan of the formula. I will check back in with you guys on day 7 for my final thoughts, and I will see you then. Hey guys, it is the end of the week of me testing out the Jaclyn Cosmetics skin tint and concealers. My final thoughts on the skin tint is that I don't like the formula. You cannot build this up. If you build it up, it will disturb the makeup underneath. I don't like the shade range. It only comes in 12 different shades. I had to mix 2 shades in tan and tan deep to get my perfect match. It still didn't match me. This formula does oxidize. I'm gonna do a pump on the back of my hand so I can show you. I did 1 pump of the shade in tan. I'll let this sit for a little bit. I'll wait till this dries down. That way you guys can see what I'm talking about. Here we have the shade in tan, then I'll do 1 pump of the shade in tan deep, then I'll blend this out. Here's what the shade in tan deep looks like. I'll apply 1 more swatch, but this time I'll mix both of the shades together so you can see what that looks like. Again, 1 little drop of each. Here's what that looks like swatched on the back of my hand. I'll wait till this dries. Going back to what I was saying, I don't think 12 shades is enough for everyone. This is not a universal product. I would not recommend this skin tint. Now let's talk about the concealers, but before I do that, I do want to show you shade in Tan Neutral, which was my perfect match. Inside of the tube, there's this milky white. I don't know what that is, so I'm scared to use this again. It's not the outside of the packaging. I'll just show you guys. I wanted to use this concealer today underneath my eyes. Can you guys see the milky whiteness that's inside of the concealer? I'm definitely not gonna apply this to my skin. I think I'm gonna take this back to Morphe and exchange it for the same shade because I really do like this shade. I just did not like the formula. I've had these products for an entire week, so this should not be happening. Again, I do want to do a swatch test on the back of my hand just to show you guys, but I'm kind of scared to swatch this. I don't want an allergic reaction to happen on the back of my hand, but I'll just swatch it. We have the shade in Tan Neutral. It came out fine on the back of my hand. We don't have that milky white situation. I currently have the shade in Tan Golden applied underneath my eyes. As you can see, it creases really bad underneath my eyes. For $26, I don't think these concealers are worth it. I'll swatch it on the back of my hand so you can see the shade. Here we have the shade in Tan Golden. The last concealer shade was in Tan Deep Peach. Tan Deep Peach was a little bit orange underneath my eyes. I didn't like how it looked. Here's what everything looks like on the back of my hand. For $26, I would not recommend this concealer. Again, I don't like the formula. It creases underneath my eyes. It's not long wearing. In my opinion, it's not a full coverage concealer. It's definitely medium, but you can build it up. Again, you won't get that full coverage. Don't let it sit too long on your skin either. It will be hard to blend out. I'm gonna dry down these swatches on the back of my hand using my fan. Here's what the skin tint and the concealers look like dried down. Now I'm going to apply a fresh swatch. It's a fresh pump of the shade in Tan. Again, I'm going to blend it out. As you can see, it oxidized. Here's a fresh pump of the shade in Tan Deep. Here's a fresh pump of the shade Tan Deep, and then here's what it looks like after it oxidizes. I'm gonna do 1 pump of each shade. I applied 1 pump of the shade in Tan and 1 pump in the shade in Tan Deep. Blend that out. Here's what it looks like blended together and then dried down. Here's what I was talking about with the shade in Tan Neutral. You can see inside of the bottle there's all these milky white lines, and then I'll swatch the shade in Tan Neutral. Here's a fresh swatch of the shade in Tan Neutral, and then again here's what it looks like dried down. Try to do it right next to it. There we go. Next up here we have Tan Golden. Here's what Tan Golden looks like dried. Last shade is Tan Deep Peach. Again, here's what it looks like freshly swatched and then dried down. Here's a closer look of everything. Again, freshly swatched and then dried down. And I would not recommend the skin tint and the concealers. Let me know in the comments down below if you have tried these products. If you guys did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. I will see you guys in my next video.